Mhm. Welcome back to New Realities. This is another exciting program about the upcoming Sedona Ascension retreats with my co-host, the producer of the event, the founder, producer of the event, Suzanne Ross, and the co-host for today with our special guest, Reuben Langdon. But Suzanne, why don't we just review some of the all-stars coming to Sedona March 8th to the 10th?
Well, thank you, Alan. I so appreciate being on another episode of New Realities with you. And I'm so excited that Reuben Langdon is with us today
Yes.
because one of the features of this year's event is going to be the channelers. And I was actually introduced to several of these channelers through Reuben Langdon and his show on Gaia TV, Interviews with Extra Dimensionals. And watching that show, I was just so blown away by the profound knowledge and wisdom that these channelers like Rob Gauthier, Wendy Kennedy, and Sean Swanson were bringing through. We have Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, and he brings through our Deep and Ancient Pleiadian. Wendy Kennedy's been channeling the Pleiadians for quite some time now, the Pleiadian Collective. And then Sean Swanson channels Ishua of the Yael civilization. So Reuben is going to be hosting a Galactic Ascension panel, which is going to include those channelers, but also Debbie Solaris. She's a galactic historian. She's really focused on the anthology of the different star races. And then we have Vivian Chavot, who is known as a galactic emissary, but she's an Arcturian human hybrid. And so Reuben is so prophetic at guiding these guest panels and communicating not just with the channelers, but with the beings they're bringing through. And he did such a tremendous job of that during his show, Interviews with Extra Dimensionals. And so I'm just so delighted he'll be hosting that guest panel for this event.
Mm, Great. Okay, let's we can stop screen sharing. Oh, there. Okay, it is going to be a fantastic event all around, not just with the channelers, but Nita Marjani. Do you know her work, Ruben? Nita Marjani?
No, I'm not familiar. I'm looking forward to meeting new people, and that's what's so great about these events is you get to interact and meet with so many new people that have not been on my radar or have been on my radar, and I've been wanting to meet them. So yes, I'm super excited.
Well, just about Anita, she wrote probably the finest book on near-death experiences. She died, went to the other side, came back, lived to say she couldn't go there until she found out how to love herself. That was why she wrote the book Dying to Be Me, which is a great title. And the conference that you're putting together, yes, has channeling. It has a lot of these near-death experiencers. It has a lot of visionaries coming there. J.J. Hurtak, Maureen Saint Germain, who else? William Henry. These are these guys, Ruben. These are the all-stars of our team. And
Yep,
so
old
I'm
school all
really
stars
looking,
for sure.
yes, I'm looking forward to that and what your contribution is, because you've done a fantastic job with the Gaia series on extra dimensional. So do you want to talk about what you might be doing at Suzanne's conference? And what's your vision? Like, where's it all going? All these things that are just emerging at this time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as Suzanne said, thanks, Alan. As Suzanne said, the Friday Galactic Round Table is really something I'm passionate about and excited about. And the reason being is, if you've seen my show, or as you already know, Alan, being in this field for so long, there is even though each individual channeler or being that comes through may have a different sort of language or nuanced story, there's a bigger galactic story that the dots seem to connect. And whether it's from, as the woman you mentioned with the near-death experiences, the sort of, and all the different channelers and different beings, there seems to be a through line of how the universe is constructed, what's possible for humanity, and where we can go with our evolution. And it seems to the dots all seem to connect. And that's what's exciting about this work, is talking to different people and channelers from different modalities and different even different parts of the world and cultures. And yet there is this connection of sort of the nuts and bolts of how the construct of the universe is put together. And that's what's super exciting, is just connecting the dots and being on stage and having the ability to have different perspectives, but yet or different perspectives from different beings, literally from across the universe, and just to ask them and pick their brain and get those perspectives. And though they may be subtle in their differences, they do offer profound insights into certain subjects. So that's what's fun, is exploring the subjects, getting the perspectives. For sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting because with these channelers that are going beyond human consciousness, we are getting a map of the universe, a map of consciousness, the variations of consciousness. So you're doing a great job in surveying what the human race is actually going to encounter. I mean, we are going to meet other consciousnesses in body or out of body, and we have to get used to that. And I think channeling is, well, it's replacing religion, it's replacing all that. It's a kind of, I call it avant-garde spirituality, it's like, it's really, I mean, I grew up with channeling in a sense. Like the first spiritual thing I ever did was see Jay-Z Knight channeling Ramtha in the 80s.
I was part of that,
right?
too.
Oh,
my mom was part of the Jay-Z Knight cult, and the Ramtha cult. And so I got exposed to it quite early, and was able to have insights and so it was a big part of my journey. Yeah.
I was a part of that too. I guess it's all a cult, but yeah, since the early 80s,
in the early days, it was for sure a cult.
Yeah, but there was some great information, and
Absolutely.
and it really expanded what I thought consciousness was. I mean, Ramtha called him and said, "What say you, beloved entity?" And then the room just distorted and changed, and it just morphed into another level of reality. So I knew there was something to this stuff, and now channeling is common. It's a common day word expression. And
I think, and when I don't mean to diss Jay-Z Knight and call the cult stuff, but it was literally my mom got involved in the cult aspects, because I think in the early days of channeling, it was so unique, and the information was quite resonating with a lot of people, that what happened was the certain people ended up finding their little groups, and then creating the groupies, and this was in everything from even Yogananda to different there's many. I think this was the 60s, 70s, 80s. It evolved, and we're moving out of that now, which is really nice. Is the clickiness. It's becoming more mainstream, so you have less of these sort of cult-like groups that get together and do their thing, right? Create a religion around the channeling, and that's what we're breaking away from.
Yeah.
It had that cult sort of like, okay, get your home, get 2 years worth of food, move out, leave the cities. And I never did that. I took what I could from that and, left the rest. I mean, it was a spiritual teaching, and not, I chose to live where I lived, which was New York City, which, was blooming and abundant with creativity. So
Oh, my mom went full in. She moved to Yale, Washington, built her shelter, out in the middle of the woods, got ready for thermonuclear war, and was really drinking the Kool-Aid deep. So I got to experience it from that end.
Wow. Where is she now, your mother?
Now she's in Wisconsin. She got out and was sort of liberated in a sense, and realized how the cult aspects of it, and broke free
Right.
So it's what's, it's kind of funny is here, I was very against all of the activities my mom was involved in as a child, and because it sort of growing up in that, it stirred up your life, right? As a
Mhm.
kid, I'm like having to move across the country, and now we're living in the middle of the woods and building out this shelter, and it was just like, can I just be a normal kid, mom? So
Mm.
so years later, now I'm producing a show, interviewing channelers. My mom has a bit of PTSD. She can't even watch the shows because
Wow.
she's afraid that some of these channelers might go form a cult and suck people in. So I'm
Well,
having to like tell her, no, it's okay, mom, but things are changed. It's different. I wouldn't be doing this if that was the case.
mm. Yeah, I mean, there are people who jumped in head first. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
cult is only what you make it. The church is a cult. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
UFOs are a cult, if you want to call it that.
If you
And
go in, it depends how you go in. Yeah.
yeah, there's a funny story where who Bud Hopkins is or
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
And someone said to Bud, he said this at this news conference, that, hey, this UFO stuff is like a cult. And Bud said, no, this is the exact opposite of a cult. The cult and a cult is all belief and no miracles. UFOs are all miracles and no belief. So I thought
Yes. Well said.
that's Bud Hopkins. But no, I'm interested in your work and what you're doing, and the kind of cosmology you are putting together from all the little pieces that you're hearing of the last, what, 5 years now on Gaia? You've been doing it, or?
Let's see, Gaia, I think it first started airing in 2018. I've been actually doing the show since 2014 is when I
Wow.
started, and then they picked it up in 2018. And I guess it was so popular they asked if I could put together a season two. Did that, and then that aired during COVID years, and then again a season three. I actually began working on a season three, and then they picked up 12 of the episodes I had put together. So it's been hours and hours and hours of interviews and collecting the knowledge and the information, and it's been quite fun. I still go now. I'm doing It's sort of evolved into a podcast, and I'm doing a weekly podcast now. Um, so it's pretty interesting.
So
You do a
it,
really phenomenal job, Reuben, communicating first with the channeler and getting the information about how they came to start channeling, right? And everybody's so interested in that. At the event, that's what we're going to do too. We're going to give each of the channelers a half hour to introduce themselves and sort of, talk about like who they are as a person and how they came to start channeling and how it's influenced or impacted their life, right? And then you go into bringing the entity through. And
Yeah.
it's it feels to me like you already have a sense as to what that other being generally brings through. And so you're able to identify different topics to focus on with them. For our event, I'm excited about this idea of galactic ascension. Of course, it is the Sedona Ascension retreat, so we're focusing on ascension, but I'm so curious what these otherworldly beings have to say about the ascension itself and how they're supporting humanity to elevate us into higher dimensional consciousness. Have you had these conversations with
Oh yeah.
channelers?
Big time. Yeah, that's probably the main through line. That was early on during these interviews as I started them in 2014, and sort of have getting these different perspectives and collecting all the data. And the one main through line that they all had to say was that humanity is going through this major shift in its evolution. And there's different terms, some people say, moving from the 3D to the 5D, or some people say moving from third density to fourth density consciousness. and depending on the channeler, there's the slight nuances in the terminology might be somewhat different, but the theme is that humanity is going through this upgrade, and it's a rare event for a civilization to do it in the physical. I think many civilizations, at least is my understanding from the interviews, many civilizations sort of die off and then they're reborn into let's say a third or fourth density. They'll sort of go up or down, but to do it while in the physical body is quite a rare occasion, and that is one of the reasons why we have so many galactic energies here at this time, observing, helping. Some are more active in their interactions with humanity than others, some civilizations, but no matter what, they all seem to have the same storyline as far as this is what humanity is going through. And I just found that fascinating that you'd have all these different channelers and different beings. And that seems to be the main glue that keeps the this ascension story. It's a common theme and a common discussion through these conversations. Oh, Alan, I think you're muted.
Right. Okay. What does it mean? Thank you. A galactic. How is that unfolding in the physical, in a sense, from your point of view?
The Ascension?
Yeah. The Ascension. What does that look like, actually?
How does it look like in the physical?
Yeah. What? How do we? Yeah.
I think we're still discovering that, but the way my understanding, so we can look at how far we've come. So if we want to look at sort of where we're going, and then how far we've come, just in the past few years now, since the COVID debacle, we have seen a major shift in let's see, the perception of reality, and how people have sort of awakened to the illusion of societal constructs. And we've come, I think it's pretty unanimous, a consensus that most people have come to the realization that government and a big pharma and these sort of institutions that were set up to through the guise of helping humanity have been doing more harm than good. And in general, I think a lot of people are coming to that realization and letting go of some of their beliefs, and this goes with collective religion as well. They're letting go of these systems that are no longer serving them, and they're sort of taking steps to empower themselves, whether it be from like I'm a big advocate for homesteading and self-sufficiency and energy independence. But we see a collective awareness and move towards sort of new systems of doing things. And I think that's only going to expand and grow as we have greater awareness and understanding of these systems that are no longer serving us. So financial systems, money, Bitcoin is a big topic in the collective. We're having an awareness around wars that was sort of, if you compare 2001 and 9/11 and then the gung ho, let's go kill those terrorists and get clean, get those bad guys kind of attitude that we had in the early 2000s around the Iraq War. Now we're seeing a very different sort of perception with the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So with South Africa holding hearings about that, and a lot of people are now condemning war as opposed to cheering it on. You still have the people cheering things on, but there is more of awareness and less of a cheering on of the war and saying, hey, wait a minute, this stuff needs to stop. So I think those are just subtle points that I've been able to take into the collective sort of to take a meter of like you were saying, how is that showing up in our reality? But I think we're going to continue on this stream and let go of these things. Look at Texas and the situation there, and we could possibly even see Texas succeeding from on a federal level. At least there seems to be some sort of battle there, and that is part of letting go of these systems that are no longer serving, and finding more independence and more sovereign ways to take care of ourselves and our communities.
Great. No, that's a good overview there. On the galactic level, what are you noticing about the beings showing up? I mean, they're maybe all different. Is there a predominance of a particular species, Andromedans or Pleiadians? I mean, because what are you finding is out there?
Oh, it's as you know, it's expansive. It's hard to sort of categorize all of them, but there's so many. There's Andromedans, the Palladians. There's so many different species that are here to assist humanity through this transformation, and there are others that are, let's say, trying to inhibit or keep humanity from evolving, because there is for thousands of years here on this planet, there has been an energetic parasite that has been sort of sucking the life force from the beings here, and that's all been, I believe, by galactic design for our evolution. But those beings that are sort of those parasitical energies, whether it's, whatever label you want to put on it, some say reptilians or the evil grays, or just demons or demonic. There's many names throughout our history with the Luciferian type agendas and these types of things. So I think we're seeing a purge of those energies and an awakening, that people are realizing that these energies are serving a few and not the many, and we're letting go of those energies that aren't serving us, and we're sort of putting our focus and attention more into other beings like our cousins, the Pleiades and Octurians, and more and angelic beings, and more positively oriented, benevolent beings. And that seems to be where those beings showing up to help us, and we're finding new alliances on a massive, greater level. Again, the masses, if they knew about these beings, I'm sure they would be aligning with them from the get-go. But for so long, these stories and these ideas and these concepts have been a bit shielded from the masses. And now that shield, and some say they use the term quarantine, now that the quarantine has been lifted, humanity is able to make these connections on their own, and not go through a parasitic middleman.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times we're moving into. That's why Suzanne's doing this incredible Ascension retreat, because we need to get familiar, well, with each other, the community, but also the new concepts, people like Mack and JJ Hurtak, who I work with pretty closely. He's bringing in multiple levels of universes really to understand. And there's so much great information coming in from channels in particular, because they are beyond the religious dogma. When I hear people talk about religion, I say, well, don't you know there's some new stuff coming down? So I'm curious for you, what's one of like a moment or a sentence or something that really kind of struck you from one of your interviews that's like, boom, like got you, just woke you up? Is there a moment or something?
Oh my God, there's so many. It's hard to go into it all. But actually, I just, for example, I just edited. I've been doing I have a membership portal, and in that I have been doing some really interesting interviews with an anonymous channel who wants to remain anonymous, is not in it for the fame or the fortune, or there's really not that much fortune in this world yet, as you know. But the fame, anyways, or whatever that comes down the pipe. And she channels the raw energy, and I'm sure you're familiar with Carla
Yeah.
Ruckert and the raw material that came out in the 80s. So it's the same, I believe it's the same energy, the way the raw speaks, and she's able to tap into that. And this is just one of these. I just posted this on Twitter. One of the wonderful nuggets that comes out of all of these different channelings. And Ra said, it is when the mind is interfering with evolution, that evolution comes in and decides for the mind.
Mm.
And that's sort of synonymous with this what's happening now on the planet. We're all trying to figure it out. We're trying to, we're moving through this evolutionary upgrade, the ascension process, what we just spoke about. And we're trying to figure it out and get all the pieces of the puzzle, and some are trying to use their mind to keep it from happening,
Yeah.
in some of these darker energies that we were just talking about. And it's just let the mind take a break, give it a mental cookie to eat on or something, and then and let evolution do its thing. And I just found that those little nuggets, there's so many of those throughout. You could pick any channeling session, and there's just tons of those things.
No, thank you for that, because you're right. We are in the process of evolution, whether we like it or not, whether we are with it or not. It's ongoing, and people like us think it's very, very exciting. So we're going with the flow, So Suzanne, do you want to talk to Reuben about what's he going to be doing at the conference? You mentioned it before the show, so why don't you go let people know what an exciting, amazing event this is going to be, especially with Reuben there and so many other great people. So go ahead.
Thank you, Alan. And you'll be co-hosting on stage with me, and I'm so looking forward to that.
Mhm.
Yes, and so Reuben is not just hosting the Galactic Ascension panel, but he's also teaching a workshop, The Alchemy of Breath. So tell us what your workshop is going to be like, Reuben.
Yeah, I've been so as many people know about the wonderful Wim Hof, this guy from the Netherlands who he's got the nickname the Iceman. He's broken so many records with his modalities and his breath work and climbing Mount Everest, Mount Everest, right, in his shorts. And when I found out about this guy, let's say about 2000, I want to say 15, 16-ish is when I discovered his work, and I began taking his classes and studying the Wim Hof method. And for me, I had been on this path, already working on the show and doing meditating and qigong and different practices. But I really found a new level of understanding the subtle details when I started taking up the breath work. And there, through that breath work, I continued. I went full Wim Hof. I did the cold plunges, went into my lake here in Big Bear in the wintertime, and did the full thing, and really got some incredible insights during those sessions. And I continue to practice Wim Hof regularly. And in a sense, it's my form of channeling. When I can go into those states with the breath work, I do believe it opens a portal for us to access information and calm the mind and just bring through more of our true selves. And that's what I'm going to be covering in this workshop. Is just we will be doing a session. I'll be teaching some of the basic breathwork techniques, but also covering some of the sort of esoteric downloads and studies that have come through during my exploration into going deep into the breath work.
Gosh, I hope I can get away to attend that, Reuben. I really love the sound of that in another new and different way. to open channels into higher consciousness or interdimensional or extra dimensional consciousness. And it seems to me at our September event in 2023, and we're doing another September event in 2024. And during my September events, it stays lighter later, and we are able to do these CE5 experiences out on the land. And it was just so phenomenal in 2023 with Reuben, and in 2024 with Reuben, we're actually bringing in Lisa Royal Holt to do that with him. So that's when we'll get out on the land and do the CE5s in the fall. But I brought it up, Reuben, because it seems to me you incorporate breath work during the CE5 experience to open everyone's channel into higher consciousness.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning. Yeah, so that's so I've been working with Lisa for years in attending her retreats and doing the contact work with her, which has been an amazing exploration and having many lights in the skies and contact type of experiences. And what I noticed, so I sort of broke off in my local area here in Big Bear and was working with some locals, some other students of Lisa's, and we started, I think in I want to say 2021, maybe, we started doing monthly CE5s. And just through our own practices, I started introducing the breath work as sort of opening the portal and creating the physical energies, sort of calibrating the physical energies with everybody. And I found it a very good coherence tool to do that, in addition to, meditation. But there's something with the breath work that when we all partake in it and do it in a collective sense like that, it really does open up a portal to other dimensions, and had quite good success with having sort of contact experiences. So yeah, it's a key to the contact work now. The intention can shift, and that's what I think is great. Just doing the physical breath is sort of the main physical aspects to opening the portal. But when you put through intention, then you can shift which type of portals you want to open. And doing a portal for contact is always a great way to open the field.
And you
Are you getting the sense of a massive first contact moment from the channeling and all the work you're doing? Is there a timeline that you could envision or lay out?
I'm hearing 2026 is the year that keeps coming through. We sort of have, so it's like the chicken before the egg. Doing the contact work or exposing humanity to concepts and ideas of we're not alone, and we're seeing in Congress now with the hearings with David Grush and Fravor and Ryan Graves. And Burchett and Luna, our congressmen and congresswomen who are tackling the subject and bringing it to the surface. There is an awareness that's coming to the masses that we're not alone, and we need that. We need that awareness to usher in contact. I use the analogy of the first settlers coming from Europe into America. And there's sort of an urban legend. I think this was actually in Jay-Z Knight's What the Bleep. Yeah, they talk about the off the coast, how the ships were not even being able to be perceived or seen by the indigenous, the natives there off the coast, because they had no concept of what in the the Mayflower or the English settlers or the European settlers, they didn't even know what that was. So the shaman actually had to go into a trance and then understand that there are other beings off the coast. And even though the ships were parked off the coast for several days, it took several days before the natives could actually see the ships and understand what was happening. So
Right,
I think we're kind of in that stage. I was just thinking we're kind of in that stage when it comes to contact and to we're just seeding the consciousness now. I mean, your great work, Alan, for years, and Suzanne, we're doing our parts as individuals, but as you guys know, this has been a bit of a fringe subject for decades, and lots of ridicule, and now that we're pulling that veil off the masses, and now that the masses are starting to somewhat believe that ETs or other dimensional beings exist, and that's an even a possible reality. Now the ships are starting to show up even more. So is it because we're able to see the ships now because we believe them, or is it that they're just here in mass? And I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really crucial time in human history. And, my book, have you seen my book? It's the subtitle is Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial. Preparing is, like you're saying, being made aware. And
Right.
when I lecture, I talk about perception, and you can't recognize something you have not cognized at first. So this phase of cognition is what you're referring to. Yes, congressional hearings, experiencers channeling, they're all saying, there's something you got to look at. There's something there that's outside what we've been taught in a very narrow worldview. And when we
Exactly.
do cognize those realities, the recognition of this greater realm will be that transformative moment. So that's why we're in such exciting moments in history, because the neural nets of awareness, as Joe Dispenza said, are igniting to form a new reality around us. And that's what we're doing, Suzanne, thanks to these gatherings, really.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And I see contact, literally. So I think as we're seeding the consciousness that this is happening more and more, if this trajectory continues, perhaps by 2026, we might actually be able to have a more public, greater event, like the Phoenix Lights, perhaps, or something that could happen that the whole world knows about because because we're ready for it. It can't happen until we're ready.
I think you're right. Something undeniable. I have to just read a question from the chat on the YouTube. It says, what do you mean? How can you define extra dimensional? How do you define it?
Well, this was actually the original intention of my show was interview with ET, extraterrestrial, and my first interview with Wendy Kennedy. This was while the cameras weren't rolling. She asked me, she goes, well, do you have a name for the show, or what are you going to be doing? I'm like, I'm still figuring it out, Wendy, but I think it's going to be something like interview with ET. And then she was like, oh, well, the P's are kind of coming in right now. They're saying, maybe you might want to use the word extra dimensional because that's a more accurate, vibrationally accurate word for what we are. And I was like, oh, interesting. Let me sit on that. And then I sort of played with the idea, and I was like, yeah, kind of like, the talking horse Ed, right? So maybe interview with Ed, it's kind of got a little, kind of instead of ET, Ed sounds like it's a person. I don't know. And I just went with it. And I was like, yeah, let's go with that, extra dimensional. And so what that means is, and this is where we, part of our malleability of our concept of what is an extraterrestrial is changing. And we're seeing this in Congress with, Representative Luna coming on TV last week and talking about, David Grush and his adamant use of the terminology interdimensional or extra dimensional as opposed to extraterrestrial. And I think this is super important because then we can distinguish the difference between everybody has this perceived idea of an ET, blue jumpsuits or track suits or whatever, or a gray or whatever, and they're in their flying can and they're doing all this stuff, where the phenomenon is not limited to that. That is an aspect of it, but it is quite expansive. And when you're talking about extra dimensionals, you cover a much greater, grander idea than just the sort of blue jumpsuit, blonde haired Palladian guy. So so
But
that's what I think. It's more encompassing, it's more expansive, and it's a more accurate interpretation when you get down into the quantum physics realm of how these beings travel. They're not traveling through traditional means. They're
Mhm.
using and their whole our whole understanding of what is reality, as far as our Earth reality. It's a realm. It's not, and we travel from realms to realms, and not, each solar system and each star is, yes, it is out there in space, but it is beyond. It is beyond that. It is a vibrational frequency. When you understand the mechanics of the universe and the vibrational frequencies, you sort of leave behind the extraterrestrial baggage. It comes with that word comes with a lot of baggage.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think there's a vibrational difference between beings from other worlds, other realms with us. And sometimes it's so intense. It's like trying to get Wi-Fi on an AM radio, that frequency difference. But
Yep.
then the channelers are the bridge to those dimensions. That's the incredible thing we're moving into now, right? I mean,
Yeah, and that's the other understanding, is when we realize that our DNA is antenna, right? That our physical being is a more cohesive tuning instrument than any technology we have on the planet. Some crystals have great abilities to tune in and to hold frequencies, but our beings, us being, mostly made of water and minerals, and we're electrical batteries that are switching from carbon-based to silicon-based in certain aspects, and that comes with a whole gamut of realms of possibilities to tune in and to interact with our beings from other dimensions.
right. And it's not a new thing. I don't know if you've ever traced the history of channeling on your show, but the prophets of the Old Testament, the what is the Oracle of Delphi, the priestesses would go into an altered state and bring through the words of Apollo. So this is something that's been with human civilizations for thousands of thousands. The Hierophant in the ancient Egyptian was the doorway between the gods and the humans. So this is almost a natural part of human civilization that been wiped out by the industrialized, mechanistic, very linear way of thinking in the West. So
Yep,
it's great that it's coming back now. And
absolutely, absolutely. I
have you
think
done
that's
a show about the history of channeling at all?
I have not. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is it has been part of our human history since the beginning, and I do believe there were forces uh, in the past that knew about these abilities and these gifts, and intentionally, in a sense, demonized
Yeah.
the art and the act of channeling in order to keep humanity from accessing some of these greater wisdoms and knowledge.
My theory is even the early Greek theater was a channeling of the gods. And when they could no longer channel, they had to write down the words and say it's the gods. But, our very cultural history can go back to a channeling of sorts. So it's
Absolutely.
great to
And
continue. So, Suzanne, um, how's it all looking for you? I mean, what can we expect? I mean, because you're the architect of this, of bringing Reuben in, along with people like Bashar and Linda Moulton Howe. So, what's your vision of doing? Why are you doing this? And what do you hope people to gain from this really beautiful coming together of such a diverse spiritual group?
Mm, thank you for asking that. Certainly to prepare people for the possibility of ascension. I mean, we are in this global awakening process, and we talk about this ascension, and people want to know, what do we need to do to ascend. And what do we even mean by ascension? How can we prepare for it? How can we raise our love light frequency? How can we attain that knowledge and wisdom that's reflective of a higher evolutionary being? And so when I think of ascension, I think of it in two ways that complement each other. And I don't know if this resonates with you, Reuben, but it's like, okay, being the best person you can possibly be, raising your love light frequency, aligning with unconditional love, compassion, empathy, unity, oneness, right? But on the other side of that is the wisdom piece and the knowledge piece to say, we are on an accelerated evolution now, and to have that advanced knowledge and that higher spiritual wisdom is also an important part of our evolutionary ascent, right? And so that's one thing I really like to bring through is that, yes, it's how can I be the best possible person? You know, how can I serve in the highest way? But also teaching. And that's what you get from some of the ascension teachers, right? Like William Henry, he brings through incredible knowledge and wisdom around ascension. But to tune into these galactics who are bringing through, you know, the knowledge about how they're supporting the ascension and what that ascension event could possibly look like. I love doing the extraterrestrial UFO intel updates through Linda Moulton Howe, who has dedicated 40 years of her life as an investigative journalist to really let us know what is the history of extraterrestrials on this planet who have been intervening and even up-leveling humanity for, she says, over 2 million years. And so that's just fascinating for us to know, you know, how much there's been that intervention and that up-leveling going on. And then, of course, connecting into ultra celestial realms. And that's really what I feel the near-death experiencers are bringing in for us to let us know that, you know, we are a spiritual being. We drop our body, we go to another higher realm, we interact with angels, right? And various beings that are part of our belief system, but it's also proof of afterlife. And so, yes, Alan, you know, that's why I'm really inspired to bring all of these people together in this perfect blend so that everyone can be inspired and empowered, but also enlightened.
Well, you know, the common theme you've just named and listed is consciousness. We're getting exposed to different flavors of consciousness, different aspects of consciousness, and to know that each person who comes to this event has their own conscious facility to access realms beyond, let's say, the ordinary in a sense, but consciousness seems to be the flavor of the day. And I mean, it is the thing. It's what we're all trying to understand. And what I think, Reuben, and maybe you agree, that it's an application, it's an app. Consciousness is, it's not just a thing, it's something we can use to make contact with other beings. What do you feel about that application of whatever consciousness is?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, consciousness is being defined right now, sort of in real time. You have so many different great wisdom teachers, as Suzanne was just mentioning, so many of the greats. And we're coming to the understanding that that there is a such thing as consciousness first. You know, so many people are still not even aware that we have this eternal, ever-present, infinite intelligence that permeates all aspects of our being, and you know, there's terms for that we've used as God in many religions, but even that is quite limited in its presentation or its understanding. So I think what we're the consciousness explorers here, really giving a new understanding and a new definition to what is consciousness. and then permeating that throughout the masses, so then everybody can come to their own understanding of what that is. But I think that is the glue that that we're discovering here is what's how this universe is connected, is through this universal intelligence, and or whatever label you want to give it, whatever definition you want to give it. But yes, consciousness is key for sure.
Right. The other thing I get from what you're doing, Reuben, is that you're validating people's experience, right? Not saying, no, you're not doing that, I don't believe that. You're allowing the experience to be heard and felt, and without judgment. And that's where we need to go as a future. Yeah. Right.
Well, we can definitely, what I've noticed is, when I go to these channeling sessions and show up and do these interviews, I match the people there. So you have to, instead of trying to prove something, which we've seen, Discovery and National Geographic do for decades, and so much time is wasted on that. Let's try to prove this thing, that you're not even getting any of the juicy nuggets that are within the deliver, within the messenger. So once you match them at their level, and you meet these people at their level, and like, I'm in, just tell me more, you get some really good details and information, and this wisdom that Suzanne was just talking about. Absolutely, it's there. So we have to sometimes let the barrier down a little bit. And why not? What's going to hurt you if you go all in on something? Oh, you might discover how the universe works. How about that?
Right. No, that's such a great point, Suzanne. That's why you're creating such a great platform. It's like you're giving people a chance to feel other people's non-ordinary realities, their non-ordinary experiences. And like Reuben said, without judgment, just jump in and feel what it is before you say, no. That's what I did when I first saw Ramtha back in the 80s. It's like, this woman's either crazy, maybe, or maybe there's a being that's using this as a vehicle for delivering a high message, before it became a cult, that is. So
yes.
I'm
a big fan of Ramtha's teachings, original teachings. Yes.
Right. And that really blew me away. It's like, wow, I am seeing beyond this dimension. I actually did have an experience of that. So channeling can open up other people's minds to their connection to the cosmos, just taking it all in. Wendy Kennedy's been around for, well, Darryl, right? I'm sure you've interviewed, right? 40 years.
Yes. Yeah.
They've been together, Darryl and Bashar. That's quite a relationship. And most Earth relationships don't last that long. So, but he's a great example of someone who's dedicated his life to this message and this truth. And now he's probably one of the most popular channels on the planet. I mean, really, we're lucky to have him in Sedona, Suzanne. And so,
very lucky.
Yeah. What's that?
I said very lucky. Yes, we're very lucky.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suzanne, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that, how long Darryl has been doing this. And I was talking to Lisa Roll-Holt on the phone the other day, and she was telling me how she has been acquainted with Darryl from like 30 years ago or something. He's been doing this all that time. And so he's been definitely a frontiersman for getting channeling more into the mainstream. I mean, and I'm recalling too, when Esther Hicks was, I think she was on the Oprah Winfrey show or something, right? Bringing through Group Abraham. So, I mean, I think it's becoming more and more widely accepted. But I love how you reflected, Alan, on the history of channeling, because really, if we think about it, I mean, that's what the Bible is. I mean, this book of Revelations, right, is this John in this cave in Patmos, Greece, channeling Jesus Christ, these revelations of Jesus Christ, right? And the Mormon religion, and you have this being Moroni looking for the Golden Book of Mormon with just Joseph Smith, right? I mean, it's just been prevalent throughout.
Right.
And
so, the first piece of Western literature, the Iliad, Homer says, "Oh, great goddess, muse, speak through me that I may tell the story of this great war." I mean, so he's calling on the muse, the goddess, to use him as a mouthpiece for speaking the history of these people. So it's so much a part of us. And of course, there's a book, if you're getting intellectual, Julian Jaynes, A Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, where he says there was no filter at some point between the voices that spoke and our own, in a sense, right brain. And then we put down this wall that said, no, we're not talking to the right brain. That's something else. So, and then what's his name? McGilchrist's latest book, The Emissary and the Servant, I think it's called, is now unifying the brain, saying, no, we can talk to the left and right brain and tap into something beyond the local field. And when I teach remote viewing, which I'm going to do at Suzanne's course, it's all about accessing something non-local. I mean, there's no other way to explain, and the CIA and the Stanford Research Institute proved it. This works. Remote viewing works, and I've done it in my classes. I'm always shocked, but somehow there's a non-local part of our brains, our mind, our consciousness that's connected to the infinite field that brings in something that's not like right in our sensorial awareness. So this is a time of changing, of redefining who we are as human beings, and extra dimensionals, and what we're all doing here is a big part of it. So I'm happy we're all coming together in Sedona. Anything else, Suzanne, you want to tell about the upcoming conference? Or
just that we have the opportunity not just to have the presentations and the performances on the main stage, but yes, like Reuben is teaching a workshop, yourself, you're teaching a workshop. We have these really interactive workshops where people have the opportunity to have one-on-one engagement with the presenters. Also, we have these outdoor journeys out on the land. So these presenters taking people into Sedona's vortex sites and accompanied by a Sedona mystical tour guide who tunes them into the vortex, so that through that, they can also achieve that contact with higher dimensional consciousness in that elevated state out in the energetic vortex of Sedona. So just try to be really comprehensive. On the main stage, both on Saturday and Sunday from 12 to 3, we do have the workshops, but we also are using the main stage for video presentations. And Reuben on Saturday at 3 o'clock is going to offer a video and a talk on the main stage. Do you want to talk about that, Reuben?
Sure. Yes. I have, through all these amazing interactions and talking with channelers and figuring out the universe, so to say, I've come to have a profound, what I believe was a profound understanding of how time works and the functions of time, and how our perception of time has sort of been misguided or misled based on our what we're taught in school, in a sense. And so I'm going to sort of unteach some of those traditional ideas, and I have a presentation that I'll be putting together from a collective of different teachings and understandings of how time actually works, and how we can perhaps, by adjusting our understanding of it, we're not so confined by it, and we're able to expand our consciousness and expand our understanding of time, and then perhaps expand our experience and how we interact with each other and in this realm.
that sounds fantastic. Can you give us just a little taste of those time concepts? Because
Sure. So let me just ask you this. Can you touch the past? Can you taste the future? What is the past? What is the future? Are they different in actual physical terms? We have they're conceptions, they're perceptions, they're ideas. But if you want to measure them through a device, a measuring device, you can't, because they're just ideas and concepts. So through the presentation, I show that the past is made up of the same stuff as the future, and they are both just as malleable. And our perception of the past is not really how we understand things. We experience the past through experiential events, but we can unexperience those events through our perception and through our imagination, and rewrite our history. And we do by shifting our vibrational frequencies. And that's ultimately, that's what it is. Time is made up of vibrational frequencies. So I go into the details of how that works, and how we can, and I'm sure you've all heard of the Mandela effect, and how we actually have proof now that the past is changing and shifting with our current events, so to say, our current vibrational frequencies. So those are just some of the ideas and concepts I like to play with.
Wow. I'm going to be there for that.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
I'm really looking forward.
It's a headbender for sure.
No, I'm looking forward to it, Suzanne. I'm looking forward to all of it, and I hope everyone watching is going to show up. I hope we have enough seats for everyone watching there, and who's going to show up. But I think it's great. Thanks, Reuben. Great to reconnect with you.
Yes, thank you.
I'll send you some great channels. Zazar's one, and a couple of other people I've come across recently. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Thanks. And Suzanne, any final words from you for this upcoming?
You're all invited. Come to Sedona. Come to enjoy the show and all these incredible people that we have coming to inspire, empower, and enlighten you.
Right. That is March 8th to the 10th. 2024, Sedona AscensionRetreats.com. Go there, get tickets. Reuben and Matt Kahn and William Henry and Darryl Anka and Bashar, Linda Moulton Howe. There it is. There's the flyer there. These are this is probably your best lineup yet. I know you've been doing it for a while, but this is probably the best I've seen, and it keeps getting better. So definitely get Maureen St. Germain and Sue Frederick, and of course Vivian Chevet and our good friend Brad Olson, and you and your beautiful sister, and so many wisdom keepers. But I love how you divided this into channeling, near death, consciousness, and so you get a whole smorgasbord there. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Ellen.
Okay, and we'll see everyone there. Come, definitely. It's going to be a fantastic event. And right around this time with the Year of the Dragon, which is full of dynamic energy, and Bashar's ship, he says, is over Bell Rock, which is right there in Sedona. So let's make a pilgrimage there, maybe. And there's so much. So thanks again. We're going to do more of this. Reuben, we'll talk. And thanks, Suzanne. Okay. Thank everyone for watching.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks. Subscribe to this channel, take out a super chat, and want to hear from you anyway. And we'll talk soon.